Hello, and I'm back with another reaction video. I would call it a banger reaction video, but it's kind of a disturbing reaction video because I'm sad that I have to do this reaction video, and I just want to make sure my viewers are aware of what's going on out here. So before I begin with this reaction video, if you like the content that we're sharing, please click the like button to our videos. That puts us in the algorithm so that our video and our content gets pushed out there to other platforms and on YouTube, so that way people can find us on here. And also it helps grow our platform. Also, comment. Like to have your comments on the content that we're posting. Your feedback is definitely valuable. And also subscribe. We're trying to grow our platform, and with your subscription, it's 100% free, but that grows our platform. And don't forget to click that notification bell so that you get notifications when we'll be going live and when we'll be posting content. And so, like I said, I'm going to do a reaction video, and if anybody's familiar with Roland Martin, he puts out good content. I really like the stuff that he puts out there, making us aware with different things. But I found out some news today, and I saw that his video was valuable, so I'm going to react to his video. But just it's basically to get you informed on what's going on, because I find this to be very disturbing. So let me get started with that. All right, so again, like I said, anytime that I'm posting, if I'm doing reaction video, if Luke and I are doing reaction video, you can look in the description section. It will have, if you're interested in knowing where the video came from, if you want to watch their full video, you can look in our description, and we'll have their name and information and what their video is called so that you can find it. And again, shout out to Roland Martin and his platform. You're doing great work over there, so I appreciate you. So let's get this video started, okay? Because there's a lot going on right now, and I don't even want to talk right now. Let's just watch this video, because for those who don't know it, and I was just made aware today, because I believe it happened yesterday. It might have went into effect today, but just to let you know, okay, that President Trump basically signed an order to remove the ban on segregated facilities. And for some of you guys who might not know what that means, let's take a look, because I think Roland Martin's platform, he actually explains it very well. So let's dive right into that.
How many times have I told y'all that this is one of the most anti-black racist administrations we've ever seen? Check this out here. The federal government no longer explicitly prohibits contractors from having segregated restaurants, waiting rooms, and drinking fountains. The segregation clause is one of several identified in a public memo issued by the General Services Administration last month, affecting all civil federal agencies. The memo explains that it is making changes prompted by Donald Trump's executive order on diversity, equity, and inclusion, which repealed an executive order signed by President Lyndon Baines Johnson in 1965 regarding federal contractors and non-discrimination. So there's been a lot of reporting around this, and so the whole goal is to target, is to say all these companies that you don't have to abide by these rules that say that you can't discriminate. What do you make of this, Larry? And I keep saying that, you know, probably the most violent racist we've ever had in the White House, and this says a lot, is Woodrow Wilson. This administration wants to defund Black America. It is targeting Black people. They are anti-Black. We can go on and on and on, and this, of course, is just another part of that.
Yeah, this is part of, the very beginning of a long 4 years. And Roland, I was on your show last week and I said, we've been focusing on like this, we're using the phrase anti-DEI. We should be saying these people are pro Jim Crow because, and this is a perfect example. This strong focus on anti-DEI, you're right, it's centered on anti-blackness. It is focused on dismantling all the progress that was made, and obviously we talked on your show a lot about the Great Society programs, the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act, Fair Housing Act, et cetera. It is, and this, when he signed this executive order in the very beginning of his presidency, it was very clear about what he was trying to do here. Obviously, we talk about federal contracts. That's taxpayer money. So we're not moving forward. They're trying to dismantle, once again, all the programs that were created that was for over decades, really over centuries, in terms of Black folks, in terms of being on equal footing, or trying to get as close to equal footing. They're dismantling all those programs and using taxpayer dollars to do that. And so when Ellie was on before, we talked about, I mentioned, we have to focus on discord and not decorum. People have to be willing, and I know Black people are tired,
crazy.
but they have to be willing when we see things like this to make sure we're heard, not just at town halls, but various other methods we have to use to make sure that these kinds of things are reversed. Because you go back to LBJ in terms of the work he did, like I said, with the Great Society programs and signing the executive order. And now here we are with the President of the United States policy that says openly say, you know what, don't worry about that. Don't worry about Jim Crow. Just go ahead and reinstitute that. And we'll keep moving forward to make sure every program, every right that Black folks have fought for decades is just eliminated. And this is, once again, another terrible example of that.
Morgan, I have made this clear.
Yeah, so I wanted to pause it right there. So for those who have heard what Roland Martin has just said in his panel, that Trump signed an order basically banning segregation, the facility. So what he had in place, he removes that ban. He removed the ban on segregated facilities. So, and this is the thing with that, because it's horrible. It's horrible. And I know people have their whole talking points, because no matter what happens, they're still going to make an excuse when it's clear in front of your face. This whole DEI thing and everything that's just coming into full fruition. And we're looking at this as, okay, how is this playing out? Because I've heard people, I've had talking points where they said, oh, well, in order for him to get rid of X, Y, and Z, he has to do A, B, and C. So if you're going after a certain people, okay, because I know someone earlier said to me, oh, well, there's some, and it's not even just today with everything that's happening. Oh, well, he has to do that because, if he can't just go after he has to do all this to get to a certain people. And when I say that, they're saying, oh, he's doing this to target the LGBTQ. I hope I'm saying the right letters. Forgive me, because there's letters that are added and I'm just trying to make sure, but you get what I'm saying. So when they say he's trying to target that community, but when I see all these other things, sorry, I don't care who you are, but for me, going into a restaurant or going into something, you can't really look at somebody and tell, okay, that a person has a certain sexual orientation. You cannot just look at somebody and assume, oh, that person. Not saying that some people aren't boisterous and, that to each its own. But what you can tell when someone goes into a facility, you can look at them and pretty much tell what their nationality, what their race is. Okay, you can tell that. So keep on believing what you want to believe. But I'm looking at what is clear before our eyes, and it's disturbing. It is definitely disturbing. Let's take a look at what else this panel has to say.
that, and I made it very clear, of course, in my book, White Fear, that people need to understand what is really going on here. The right is trying to target every economic program or initiative that has aided Black people and benefited many others since the Black freedom movement or the civil rights movement. That's what this is all about. To attack affirmative action in colleges and universities, to attack programs in law firms, to attack programs in corporate America, to attack programs in government. They are operating by this, oh no, it's about doing what's right and just and about being fair and it's about a meritocracy. When the fact of the matter is, this country has never had a meritocracy. It's never existed, ever. It benefited white men, it benefited landowners, didn't benefit white women, didn't benefit Black people and others. And so in their minds that this is the greatest harm. And in fact, the Washington Post got a hold, Washington Post or New York Times, one of them, got a hold of the Doge plan. And the first 6 months was all attacking DEI. And that means attacking Black people. This is a massive economic assault on Black America. And I don't think even a lot of us really understand how deep this is.
I think that's right. I mean, taking this example, it is wrapped in a couple of things in terms of how it's getting implemented. So like the NIH guidance, once this policy came down, was, okay, we're going to get rid of the ban on segregation, but then also we're going to get rid of our equal opportunity program, which would likely benefit a lot of Black contractors. Exactly what you're saying, Roland. I mean, it's kind of wrapping this idea of like meritocracy. Well, we don't really have segregated facilities. This isn't that big of a deal.
Everyone.
Okay,
that's exactly what that is.
You probably aren't going to hear about this other piece.
Many of us thought "Make America Great Again" that's what it meant.
And not to say that we have at all sought for racial
some
discrimination.
of us voted for him for one reason,
the
and
Equal Opportunity Program is having
they're pushing
a
all
very
this
direct
in.
impact
It's like,
on a certain segment of our community being able to get contracts, make money, build wealth, etc. I will say, though, and this is something that's come up in conversations, and why this strategy, in my opinion, is somewhat successful, or successful enough to get this administration the support they're looking for from our community and others, because we do have to be honest about the fact that some people from our community did vote for this administration, is that, and again, I would be very interested in the panel that, well, what have these programs done for me lately? I've never gotten access to that type of contract. We've had generations of these contracts. It has not impacted the economic reality in a significant way for, let's call it, at least 50% of the Black community. And I'm never going to work at a corporate law firm. So what does this have to do with me? And look, we can spend some time on that, but I do think we have to be real about that sentiment that for a big segment of our community, there has not been that economic advancement. And getting back to one of the things that Ellie mentioned when we're talking about, building a successful coalition, an administration that will support having these types of opportunities available, we have to think about what those economic messages are going to be able to get enough people to support in the right direction.
Here's how I would address that. And I've heard this before, it hasn't benefited me. Okay. Anybody in your family? Anybody in your neighborhood? Mm-hmm. Anybody in your church? The reality is last year, and it's not like we should be jumping up and down because it wasn't even 2%. But last year, the reality is that Black contractors received $10 billion in federal contracts. Again, wasn't even 2%. So I would say to those people, so do you want Black contractors getting $5 billion? How about $3 billion? How about we go down to $2 billion? Because here's the reality. In Black neighborhoods, You have black organizations that are dependent upon the largesse of black people who work. Black churches, HBCUs. So when someone makes that comment, Mustafa, they're actually not looking at black people in the aggregate or as a whole. And so I hear people, you hear this phrase, Democrats have never done anything for us. Well, that's also a lie. I mean, so it's also a lie to say Republicans have never done anything for us. I mean, there are little programs you can actually point to.
True.
But you can also say, okay, so what do you think black life is without any of those programs? Like if you want to have that conversation, sure, let's have it. And we'll show you what that actually looks like. Doesn't look good. And that to me, Mustafa, is a massive mistake if that is the position of a lot of black people, because what you're then doing is you're giving them license to say, oh yeah, we can go ahead and gut it. This ain't gonna be a problem at all.
Right. We should actually be focused on how do we expand the sets of opportunities that are in front of us and understand the steps that are necessary. Because we often on the show talk about the wealth gap that exists. We know that this plays a small role in helping to address that. We understand that. Let's anchor it in this, because folks miss this, and I talk to people all across the country. These are your tax dollars. So if you're not getting some of those tax dollars back, then that means that they're going to other communities. They're going to others who may not be looking for opportunities to reinvest inside.
In fact, Mustafa, let's take it back to Jim Crow. There were decades that black people were paying into a system if they never got anything back.
Yep.
They didn't get roads, bridges, schools. They didn't get any. We were paying into this system. Literally, white folks were being able to live a grand life because they were benefiting from the tax dollars, property taxes, income taxes, sales tax of black people during Jim Crow, and we got virtually no benefit.
That's exactly. If you really want to understand what's going on in this moment, if you really want to be anchored in this conversation that we're having right now, go back and look at President Andrew Johnson, because in 1866, he actually vetoed the Civil Rights Act. He was against the Freedmen's Bureau. He believed that in the South, only white men should govern. Now, that sounds really familiar to sets of actions that are currently going on. So when Roland talks about, and the other panelists who are sharing right now are talking about resources and who has access to those resources. And if we pretend like, even though it may be a smaller percentage that is coming into our communities, like that it is not a big deal, then we start this self-fulfilling prophecy where people can begin to repeal in all other aspects of the economic life inside of our communities and outside of that. So I know everybody, means well when we have these conversations, but we have to look deeper, because many times we are having a surface conversation and not really seeing the dynamics that go on behind the scenes. After decades of working in the federal government and pushing back, even when I was in the federal government, against injustices that I saw these opportunities for our communities to better be able to fund, and nobody was giving us anything. It was really our dollars that were being redirected to other communities, to other initiatives, and not the ones that communities were actually asking for. So we just got to make sure that we have a much better understanding of how we build a stronger economic infrastructure, which then gives us the opportunity to create stronger infrastructure in all the other aspects that are critical to healthy and sustainable communities, that come from where we are.
Larry's also trying to get people to understand that if you have black doctors in your neighborhood, you are benefiting from programs. You want the black lawyers. You want black entrepreneurs. You want black entrepreneurs in your area. Okay, how do you think these things happen? See, I think we make a serious mistake. And I get it. When we become so, well, I haven't gotten anything. And whenever I remember we were on the road, I forgot where we were broadcasting. And the brother put that out there. My response was, who did you ask? What did you apply for? I said, at some point, I said, you can't just look at this as, well, let it all go because I haven't benefited. When if we start breaking these things down, oh, no, you've actually benefited. You've actually benefited from a lot of this. But there's a difference between a direct benefit and an indirect benefit.
Well, I've talked about this on the show before. We have to, first of all, and maybe this goes back to like the Freedom School Project, doing this during the summertime. We have to do a better job of really, in your show, that's why your show is so important, explaining to people how these systems are linked. And part of the reason why we have a president we have today is because people don't understand some of the basic, simple ideas about federal resources. The other thing is I want to highlight one thing you said about, you mentioned black physicians, lawyers, et cetera. The importance of black physicians alone in the community. So a study came out a couple of years ago that found out black infants are two to three more times more likely to die if they had a white physician compared to having a black physician. And let's sit with that for a second. In addition, there are a lot of folks out here who are getting away from the idea of communalism. The reason why black folks we are where we are today, beyond the fact we've continued to deal with systemic racism, is because we have a strong sense of communalism that goes back to our ancestors, slave Africans being brought here to the United States. This idea of communalism is what's kept us as sane as possible, and why we've been able to in some ways navigate these economic, political, and social systems. So this idea that people don't see how they're benefited is we have to do a better job of explaining to people how, like you did, articulating how these systems work. B, we have to do a good job of highlighting if these systems don't exist. We talk about Jim Crow in terms of the challenges that black folks face. In addition, we have to remind people that even though there are some of our people on our panel and some black folks throughout the country who are successful, it's a reminder that those numbers should be quadruple what they are, whatever our discipline or our place of study is. But because the system is embedded in white supremacy, even those black folks have had a hard time getting to where we are. So the idea is it's not us. It's not that we don't benefit from the system. We do. But the idea is the system is so complicated and geared towards, limiting our success that you may not necessarily see it immediately or, your immediate community, even though you benefit from it. The idea is to be far more black people thriving economically, politically, et cetera. If we dismantle the system to make sure that black folks have the chances that we deserve as U.S. citizens.
Okay, so somebody just posted. Somebody hold on over. Someone just posted in the chat. I found out my doctor was racist during COVID. When I think about opioids, the numbers have changed in the last several years. But in the first 3 to 5 years, racism actually, I know people may think this sounds crazy, but that was probably one of the few times black people benefited from racism. White doctors believed that black people had drug problems.
That right there.
So therefore,
that's true.
They prescribed black people to take Tylenol. They were initially prescribing white folks OxyContin and a lot of the other powerful opioids. Mm-hmm. That's a perfect example, to Larry's point, when you have black healthcare professionals who are able, I just saw a story I think her last name was Castleberry. A very prominent sister on YouTube, or she was on TikTok. It was something along those lines. She was a social media influencer. And for 8 months, her white doctors kept telling her that she had a fibroid problem. Come to find out, she had cervical cancer.
Wow. That's a shame.
When it was finally diagnosed, it was stage 3. She died a few months later. So I need people to understand that when you look at medical school programs, when you look at student loan programs, when you look at, like, there have been things that have been done that have aided the rise of black doctors and black lawyers and black engineers and black professionals. And also, I think we got to also be willing to challenge our own people who don't know shit.
Yep.
Because in your own community, if you're like,
yeah, I can agree with that, what he just said. I agree with everything that they're saying, but what he talks about the doctors, I can relate to that. Had a medical issue, and I just felt like I was being pushed a certain kind of medicine instead of, and I'm just like, okay, real quick, doctor, real quick to sign. Oh, I'm like, okay, you didn't really check me over. You didn't even look at a natural way, or is there physical therapy, something. You're ready to just be a pill pusher. Like, and yes, that's a thing that I've seen over the years, and just from hearing other people, where it's almost like, okay, there's a difference how they handle black people when it comes to the medical field. It's like, okay, you want to be a pill pusher. You want to, okay, the way you're looking at a white person's pain tolerance different than a black person's pain tolerance. And it goes way back when they used to do experiments on black women, okay, with the things that they were, I'm not going to get into that, but it goes into the history. And when I see stuff like this, everything that I might have been sad about back in the day, watching different movies and seeing the white fountain, the black fountain, the movie Jane Pittman, walking up there to the fountain, and I see this, okay, and even from my own parents, it takes me back. From a time that I wasn't even here, but just hearing stories from my family members. I remember my father telling us a story. My mother, okay, him and my mother were out and about. This was obviously during that time where you had this going on, where people could just put a white sign up and a black sign up, and you had to choose which way you're going to go. Hey, I'm black, so I got to go to this fountain. So I remember a story with my parents, and I missed them dearly, but I remember my father saying, my mother told this story as well. She had to use the restroom, and they were driving around one day. So my mother, okay, she goes into, because it was a whites only bathroom and it was a black only bathroom. My mother went into the black bathroom and it was filthy. And so she came out. So my father was like, hey, what's wrong? I know you didn't go that quick, whatever. She said, no, it's okay. I'll wait. That bathroom's filthy. He said, well, there's a bathroom right here. And he points to the white bathroom. She said, oh, I'm not allowed to go into that bathroom. I can't go in that bathroom. My father went in the car, and from what he said, in that time in his life, he got his gun and he stood outside of that white bathroom. And he told my mother, you go on in that clean bath, go on in that bathroom, go in the bathroom. This is taking me back. And here I'm seeing this right before my eyes today. For that ban to be lifted off of the segregated facilities is eye-opening. Not even before today, even back in 2020, where I had, when Trump was in office before, back in when we were dealing with, the pandemic and things like that. When I think about that, and I was boisterous about some things because I always had a thing about this guy where I'm from New Jersey, so there's different things that, in New Jersey, we saw different things and people had their own talking points of why they did and did not like this man. And like I said, I always looked at him as a crooked car salesman. I heard my parents say different things, so when you grow up, you get knowledge of what adults are saying. So you're looking at this and you're seeing how this person moves. So this is not a surprise to me. And again, I said it in other videos, when you have different things happening in the country and a lot of people just trying to pick up pieces, because again, when you think about Sodom and Gomorrah, if you read your Bible and you see that unfolding in your country, so then you're like, okay, this can't be pushed on kids. I don't want this to be a thing pushed on kids. But the stuff you're doing, though, you didn't want that pushed on kids, which I get it. It didn't agree with my Bible, of course. But then you turn around and you think I want my grandkids or my children after me to try to walk into a restaurant. And if this facility, if they decide, okay, we don't serve your kind, you're not welcome here. Do you think I want my family members, my children, anybody, even me? I don't want to experience that because I know how I felt anytime I saw that in a movie. But I just wanted to throw that out there. This is crazy. And I wanted to make you guys aware because this is something that you need to open your eyes. Okay, you're not doing all this because you don't like a certain type of people, whatever. This is an attack on, and I feel like it's an attack on people who look like me. Okay, because and not only that, but some of these other policies and things that have been changed don't just affect people that look like me. They affect even people with different color skin than me, white people. But a lot of times what you'll have is, and I'm not just saying white people because Trump has supporters from different races. So what you'll see, and I'm talking about the Trumpers. I'm not talking about the people who voted for him because, hey, he aligned more with my Bible at the time. I'm not talking about those people who thought they were doing the right thing because this other agenda was being pushed on kids in schools and things like that. I'm talking about the people that no matter what this man does, you're going to be a ride or die for him because you're acting like he's Jesus Christ come down from heaven to save us all. Those people, the Trumper people that know that some of the things that he's doing that's affecting your families, because it might not be your household, but it could be your neighbor. It could be a couple people at your church that actually need different things, funding from this. They might need something for their health care. They might need help getting medications and things like that. So let's not sit back and have a blind eye of what's really going on out here. Let's open our eyes because this is crazy. Okay, make America great again. We thought that back then. We were like, okay, what is he trying to do? You're trying to put us backwards. You're trying to put us at a time, because he always spoke about a time where, yeah, I can agree, get back to families. But the way you're doing it, sir, you're taking us back to some crazy stuff. Racism was still here. It was not dead in our country. We're not far removed from the 60s and 50s. Okay, we're not far removed from that. Some of those people are still living today. But the way you're doing it, you're giving people fuel to come on right on out. And hey, let's just let them see how we were all this time. We had it hidden, but he's going to bring it out now. But I just wanted to say that. Let's hear what else they have to say.
Okay, do I accept what I have, or do I want? I just keep going back. I just keep going back to my life growing up in Clinton Park in Houston. We lived 8 blocks from my grandparents. My parents didn't go to college. Both worked. Combined, never made more than $50,000 a year. 5 children. And when they decided to join with others to launch a civic club, they were asking very basic things. How do we get new streetlights? How do we get new streets? How do we tear down overgrown lots? How do we get rid of these abandoned houses that have now turned into crack dens? How do we get stepped up police patrols? How do we get our park rebuilt? How can we convert this old firehouse into a senior citizen center? These were regular, ordinary people who didn't have college degrees, who didn't have lots of money, but they cared enough to say, okay, there are things that we want in our neighborhood. Who do we go ask? Is it the city? Is it the county? Is it the federal government? Is it the school district? That's what it is. I just think a lot of times, Morgan, and I want you to make the point that you were going to make, but I also want y'all to address this. I just think a lot of times we let too many people in our community off the hook. I think we do not challenge people in our community enough to give a damn about where they live. Now, I know somebody's sitting here saying, oh, Roland, that's easy for you to say, position that you're in. No, I'm putting myself in that chair when I was 10 and 11. I am not speaking through the lens of where I live and how much I make today. I'm looking at when I was traveling with my mama to the state capitol for rallies with the metropolitan organization. I'm putting myself in the position of being 14 and 15 and speaking before the Houston City Council. I did not have politically connected, financially endowed parents or grandparents. What I did have, though, were a group of people who actually gave a damn about their community, a group of people who actually cared enough. I just think we have to, at this moment, we have to be challenging our folk to do less bitching and moaning.
Yes.
And then do more organizing and mobilizing.
Yes.
Morgan, go ahead.
Yes, I agree.
Well, look, Roland, I mean, and I identify a lot with what you said. I also have benefited from a strong community. Challenges, came our way growing up, but we were able to overcome them because of the root of a strong community, strong parenting. And that put me in a position. I'm going to shout out also your first guest tonight, Michael Brown, was the beneficiary of the Ron Brown Scholar Program that allowed me money to pay for college, to pay for law school. So don't get me wrong. I mean, these programs, I do not dispute at all that they have an impact. It is a tangible impact. But what I'm saying and what I'm hearing from people is it is not enough. We don't want a program. We want to be free. And if you are getting stuck and your children in an underperforming school district where we know this is true, you are not even learning how to read for real by the time you hit high school, let alone how to do math, then you are not being positioned to actually take advantage of any of these opportunities that might be available. Multiply that by a couple generations of living through that, and we have to be honest about the fact that we have a segment of our community that is not in a position to really succeed and build strong community and provide all of the resources, Roland, that you and I both had available to us, it sounds like. So why is that? I would say it is about the fact in a big, big way that people do not have enough money and financial stability to be able to reinvest in their community in that way. Are some people just checking out? I absolutely think that's true. But let's even take the example of a Black doctor right now. That Black doctor is going to be entering a healthcare system that is going to stress them out, that is not going to allow them to actually probably have an independent practice where they would be able to be rooted in our community, sponsor the Little League team, do all these things. They're going to get gobbled up by United Healthcare, a huge monopoly that's going to dictate how much they get paid, when they work, and if they don't play by those rules, they will not have a job and be able to practice medicine in this country after probably accumulating $200,000 in debt. So even at the higher end of the class spectrum, I would say now, we're running up against some of these limits for us, let alone the people that have not been able to get into a position based on a substandard education they've received to access that type of opportunity. And if we want to avoid or get out of this mess that we currently find ourselves in, we have to be real about that. We have to have a more aggressive vision for what the future is going to be so that more people from our community are in a position to really reinvest and build strong communities.
Which is why I believe, Mustafa, to the point I think you made it earlier, is that what you can't do is lose what you already got. And I think the mistake that, and I've heard people do this, the mistake that people make is, okay, you say, well, like perfect example, if you look at the federal MWBE contracts, white women get 78% of those contracts. And so I'll hear somebody say, well, that ain't benefiting us. But the black contracts last year were a record $10 billion. So the point you're making, all y'all are making, I'm making as well, I don't want to go backwards to try to go forward. My deal is I'm going to fight where we are right now, to keep it where we are now and build upon that. The worst thing would be to sit here, which we saw in 2008, 2009, 2010, and 2011 with the home foreclosure crisis. We saw 53% of black wealth wiped out because of the home foreclosure crisis. Now, I remember when people were saying, oh my goodness, the richest black county in America is Prince George's County. And I kept saying, I need y'all to stop saying it's the richest county. I need y'all to stop saying it's the wealthiest county. So I was like, why are you hating? So I'm not hating. I said, do they own the homes outright? I said, no. I said, if there's an economic calamity, guess what? They're going to lose them homes. And what happened? Home foreclosure crisis hit. Middle class, upper middle class, black communities across America got demolished because a lot of folk couldn't afford those balloon payments. I said, so stop saying somebody's wealthy. Wealthy folk ain't going to lose their house when the market goes under. So I had to walk people through that. But where we cannot be, Mustafa, we cannot be in a situation where we are losing ground voluntarily. That to me is what's crazy when people say, yeah, man, and we heard it last year. Man, you know what? I'd rather have Trump back because I had money in my pockets when Trump was there. You know you had money in your pockets when Trump was there because that wasn't about Trump. So I was like, what you mean it wasn't about Trump? I got an email from brother, right? Compton. Yeah, man, we had money in our pockets when Trump was there. I said, PPP fraud is not money in your pocket. I said, the so-called Trump economy of 2017, 18, and 19, that wasn't Trump. That was Obama. All the hell that we went through in 2009, 10, and 11 positioned us for 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. And all the hell we went through coming out of COVID after Trump screwed up in 2020, and then the hell in 2021 and 22 building out of the economy, that was Biden-Harris. So I don't want us to lose ground. That to me is the danger. When Morgan talked about the language that people are using, the danger is they are willing to allow us to cede ground that was fought with blood, tears, and black death.
Yes.
We just have to be extremely careful.
I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to pause it right there. I'm going to pause it right there. Okay. Let me skip this. We're going to leave it right there.
We just have to be extremely careful that we don't continue.
Okay. So again, Roland Martin, there's more to the video. It looks like there's about a good maybe almost 20 something minutes left in the video. So you can look in the description below and get the rest of that video. Watch the rest of the video if you're interested in seeing what Roland Martin and his panel has to say. I just wanted to touch on what they said so far and share that with you because that pretty much covered what is going on. Just liked hearing their talking points, hearing what their views were on this. So maybe you could get a better understanding on what's going on and what this could possibly mean. And just don't have your eyes closed to what's going on because there's so many people that have their own opinions about, oh, this person's doing this. Oh, I have people that are talking to me about different things. And, it kind of comes off like you had a personal conversation with the elect President Trump. You didn't have a personal conversation with him. You don't know why this is going this way. And everybody has their talking points. Oh, he's only doing this. Okay, but at the end of the day, all of this, like Roland Martin says, nobody came this far to go backwards, because people have been unlifed. We have ancestors who have been unlifed that were fighting for our rights to be able to walk into a facility and not be told, hey, you're not allowed in here, or hey, we don't serve your kind. Okay. And it's crazy. At a time in our life where we've come far, we have a lot of work to do. We need to come together. When he talks about communities, I can think about my community growing up and how my community worked together as a people. And, you know, at the end of the day, that's something that we can do, because, again, there's power in numbers. And we're so busy pointing a finger at each other. My previous video about getting families back together, we have to get back to community as well, not just family. We need to get back to community and stop this childish, oh, you did this, you did that. We need to work together. Right before your eyes, you see this unfolding, and you need to be ready. You need to have different things in place. Businesses, I get it. We've dealt with that for years, where there's a difference in us trying to get loans. And I've heard so many stories about different people trying to get loans for businesses in different states, and, you know, declined loans because Black businesses, you know, people trying to better themselves, but yet they were still being held back. That systemic racism that does exist in our country. And so I say this to say, we have to open our eyes. And this is not just for any race, because if you actually do care about your neighbor, if you actually do care about your Black friend, and why don't you stop trying to hush their voice and actually hear what they're saying? Because you might look at it as, oh, you guys are complaining. Because I remember years ago, like I said, my friends sitting down with them and having a conversation, you know, and I started to notice if it was anything Black conversation, anything that had to do with my actual feelings and what's going on in our country, the whole George Floyd thing that happened and them wanting to know how I felt. But when I spoke and I had something to say as a Black woman, it was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe she's saying this. You know, you guys have to just let that go. This stuff is years ago. It's not years ago. It's right here. And it's a feeling. You can feel it. Okay, you can feel that it's still, you might not feel it because it doesn't affect you or your family. But for my family and for me, we can feel this when one of us is going down and we have these issues. And I get it. For my people, yes, Black people, we have to get it together. We have to stop fighting with each other. We have to come together as a people, and we have to unite. We really do. Because who's for us? All of our ancestors that fought for us, all of them who did marches, they did marches so that we have a right to go in places and not be told that we can't go in places. They fought for us to drink from that fountain. They fought for us to be able to hold our heads up high as we walked into schools. Now, that's not saying that that was a good plan back then, because they saw that that was basically walking into a fire. But this is where we are today. Our children, they have a right to get on the bus and not have to sit on the back of the bus. Okay, so with all that they did, we don't want to go backwards. Well, this is basically the video I wanted to share with you guys. I wanted to make you aware of what's actually going on. And as you can see, I'm not going to call it a banger reaction video because I'm not happy with what I'm seeing unfold right before us, right in our country. This is America. And no, when I think of America and everything that I learned in school, that I'm like, wow, it's a shame that they went through that. And here in 2025, we're not so far removed. So, as always, at Luke-N-SHAE'S place, your mental health is important. A positive mentality is a destined reality. Try to wear your smile, stay positive, and stay blessed. Until next time, take care.